Entrepreneurially Thinking is a presentation of BioSTL and CET, Center for Emerging Technologies, with raregem-productions, changing the way you view new ventures, including you on the pathway to success with your business in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. Here's your hosts, Cheryl and Christy. Now let's get thinking entrepreneurially.
Welcome back to the Entrepreneurially Thinking podcast. Our goal is to champion your entrepreneurial mindset and create pathways for business success in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. I'm Christy-maxfield.
And I'm Dr. Cheryl-Watkins-Moore. I lead our inclusion initiative for the region and happy to be back with my girl here.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
Excellent. We are recording our 7th season at the end of summer, going into the fall.
And it's 1,000 degrees today.
It's 1,000 degrees, and we've got 1,000 things going on.
Yes.
So as always, we want to thank you for tuning in, listening, making us part of your podcast lineup. We are thrilled that we can continue to come to you thanks to the support of our founding sponsors, CET and BioSTL.
Big shout out. And we've probably now surpassed 21,000 listeners now.
For sure. We're probably well on our way to 22.
Wow. Thank you guys.
So if you love what you hear, keep listening, ask your friends to subscribe, and, consider making a sponsorship.
There you go.
Part of your way of reaching other like-minded folks who are also listening in this space.
Yes.
Remember, you can find us wherever you find your favorite podcast, whether that's iTunes, Spreaker, Facebook, LinkedIn. We
want to be wherever you are.
There you go. I leave all the taglines to you.
Yes, we do.
What are you doing today? What are we doing today? Who are we? Where are we? What are we?
Can we hear the good news, man?
Tell me.
Minority-owned firms in the U.S. rose to 8 million, according to the U.S. Census Bureau.
That's
More
huge.
Good news? The number of African-American small business owners in the U.S. has increased by an awe-inspiring 400% in just a year, according to Guidant Financial. They are
and
small
black
business
women are
financing.
leading that.
Yes.
Just so you know.
Yes.
I don't have that stat in front of me, but I know it's black women.
Yes, it is. And this organization, they surveyed more than 2,600 small business owners and entrepreneurs. So this isn't a number we're making up. This is a truism, right?
Absolutely.
So what's the problem? 80% of African-American small business owners said, as we all know, lack of capital was the most challenging aspect of running their business. This is 10% higher than the average small business owner. And these are average of small business owners.
I think if you get 90% less and only have a 10% complaint higher than the average, that's actually incredible because you should be 90% pissed off.
Right. But what's even more awe-inspiring is if they're lacking capital but growing at an awe-inspiring 400%, these folks know how to do business.
Absolutely.
They're doing it some kind of way, right? So Capaha Partners is working to match financial institutions and other strategic financial sources with minority businesses to provide greater access in the capital markets. This is going to be a phenomenal conversation.
Yeah,
so
it's all about the
if
money.
you guys are doing your running or whatever the heck you're doing while you're listening to us, you really need to keep your ears on and listen to this conversation.
Handy, maybe?
Yes.
Okay.
Our managing partner, Raullo Eanes, joins us when we come back, and we're going to have a great discussion. So as we always say, stay listening.
CET, the Center for Emerging Technologies, is a proud founding sponsor of this Entrepreneurially Thinking podcast. We want you to know all about the great things they are up to. Square One offers 2 training options. Square One Ignite, a 4-week program created to help founders quick start their business model validation process. Or Square One Bootcamp, an in-depth 10-week, 50-hour program that combines formal instruction with hands-on learning, networking, and mentoring. To learn more about Square One Bootcamp or Square One Ignite, visit CETSTL.com. And for your renewed and continuing support, CET, we say thank you.
Raullo Eanes, Capaha Partners. What does entrepreneurially thinking mean to me? It's the ability for a group of people who have strong ideas and really want to be independent to give them a platform and an opportunity to find resources, find like-minded people, and do something for themselves.
I had the pleasure of meeting Raullo when we were both presenting at a U.S. Bank program at WashU. And we know a lot of people.
Yes, we do, but I don't know him.
And I didn't know him either. And so I made a point before that day was over to say, hello.
Hello. Who are you?
I'd really like to know you. And I think I might stalk you a little now. But he has been kind enough to stay in touch since we first met. We've had lunch. We've gotten to know each other a little bit better. And he's been very generous for me with his time and expertise and insight and just overall support. Like, keep doing what you're doing, right? Which everybody needs.
Yes.
So, Raullo, I am just thrilled that you could be with us today. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Yes.
So, Raullo, I know you're not a native St. Louisan, which is always one of the things we set up, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And we always ask, because we're always like, okay, because either that story is like how you started here and made it big, or how you came here after starting someplace else, but found great things happening in St. Louis. But St. Louis has become a really important part of your story.
It's an important part of the story, and we actually do have roots here in the St. Louis region.
And your wife, I imagine?
My wife as well, but more so through my father and my family here in the St. Louis region.
So that's where we want to start, the background.
She always wants to know, where did it all begin? Did you come from an entrepreneurial family? Did you... what sort of set you on your path? Yeah.
Did you grow up, if your parents, you said your father's from here?
My father he lived in East St. Louis.
Ah, okay.
He lived in East St. Louis. He spent a lot of time here in St. Louis. I have aunts and other relatives here, cousins in St. Louis.
Okay.
My wife is from Cape Girardeau, but her uncle and aunt and brother-in-law and sister-in-law are here.
Wow.
So our roots are really deep. I used to tell people when we'd meet them here in St. Louis, I know my way around so well, I know the streets versus the highways. So,
oh, wow. You really do know your way around.
And all the good places to eat.
That's another thing we bonded over.
Yes.
Is the food piece, which is a very common theme within our relationship as well.
Right. So back to your question.
Yeah.
My father migrated to Wisconsin. So I was born and raised in Racine, Wisconsin.
Okay.
My mother migrated from College Park, Atlanta, Georgia. And they met in Racine, thinking before that they were actually going to head back south. But if you know your history, back in the 50s, there was a huge migration north for employment. My father worked in a factory and was for the large part an entrepreneur himself. We have a family farm in Sparta, Illinois.
Okay.
So he was raised doing a lot of farming. My grandfather worked and retired from Monsanto. So our paths always have kind of been centered somewhere around St. Louis, coming and going.
And in the ag space, sounds like. Your dad had the farm, your grandfather worked at Monsanto, so some of that ag going on.
Oh, yeah. And the farm is still there.
Wow.
It's about a 500-acre farm with a lot of water, trees.
Oh, beautiful.
Beautiful spot.
So you said he worked in a factory, but he was entrepreneurial?
My father worked in a factory. That was the employment that he could get at the time for black men. And he also owned rental property, owned a liquor store, and a tavern, as they're called in Wisconsin.
Wow.
Or a nice corner bar.
Yep. How did he have time working a full-time gig and then doing this? This is what a lot of our entrepreneurs today are doing. We tell them, don't quit your good day job.
And he never did quit his good day job because he had good day benefits.
That's right.
He was, I guess, a self-professed workaholic. And I've got a lot of that tendency myself. I tend to work nonstop. So you grew up in Racine. Where did you go to? This is not a St. Louis question, high school, but where did you go to college? Marquette University. We have a long-standing legacy at Marquette. So combined our families, between my wife's family and myself, we have 47 years in Marquette. Wow. And we are the only African-American family to be legacy at Marquette. That's very interesting. Yeah. So we spent a lot of time, a lot of money. We've given back. We've helped build a scholarship there. we've been extremely active alums.
That's great.
So I'm always recruiting.
Awesome. That's good to know.
That
I'm always
great.
recruiting.
That's great.
And the other tie back, it's amazing. Our son would have given us 50 years, but our son actually graduated here locally from St. Louis University.
Oh.
So another St. Louis tie back.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
Cool.
So he didn't go too far, right? He
No.
just didn't go to Marquette.
He just didn't go to Marquette.
And somehow he got a special pass. He's still part of the family.
Right. So what's your professional career? I mean, after you graduated from Marquette, what did you do?
I went to work actually kind of back in the ag field. I worked for J.I. Case, which is now C&H.
C&H. What is that?
Case New Holland.
Okay.
The J.I. Case, of all things, they made tractors and construction equipment.
Okay.
So I went to work on the agricultural side in corporate finance, not actually building the tractors, but actually financing them. Right. Financing
They're not
them.
cheap.
Right.
No. A tractor and a combine is not cheap
Nope.
whatsoever. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I spent my time in corporate finance, working at Case, working for Abbott, and then eventually fell into banking.
Okay.
Went into banking to do a turnaround of a leasing portfolio, which was wildly successful. And then the bankers asked, what do you want to do next? I was a consultant at the time, so I was thinking about doing something completely different. Part of my consulting at that time was also doing a project for Anheuser-Busch here. So we're back to St. Louis. Back
Never
north.
very far from.
Never very far from. But completed the assignments and had been traveling for the world actually for about 7 years and decided to get off the road and became a commercial banker of all things.
Wow. So you from consulting to commercial banking. That's really cool.
And then from there, you then actually went into entrepreneurship. Did you not? Was that your next stepping stone from there?
I did. I was an investor and on the board of directors of Legacy Bank, which was the country's first female-led bank.
Oh, where was this located?
In Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Also had started from scratch a food distribution company, which was sold to Reinhardt Food Service. So here I am kind of going through a banking career and then back to entrepreneur. And then we made our way down to Chicago to work in corporate banking again for a short period. Then I bought a manufacturing company, which went all the way into the Great Depression, recession.
The second Great Depression, right.
One of our times, yes.
Right.
And after all of that, decided to go back into consulting. Had built up a lot of experience in finance, accounting. Operations.
Yeah. Raising money.
Buying a company.
Right.
So
Losing a company,
making money, losing money. So at that point, I thought, if I can carve out something where I can give something back, I've got a lot of knowledge to share. I've got a lot of resources. And so building up, working with debt providers, private equity, family offices, banks, especially the banks, and understanding exactly how to, as we met, how to tell your story. That's been one of the keys thus far, is just helping businesses really tell their stories to people who are trying to loan them the money.
Right.
It's not easy. It's not an easy exchange. You've got to be able to tell your story in a manner that they understand, more so than just please give me the money and I'll give it back to you. But really walk them through it in their language.
So before we go into the details on that, because that's gonna take us a little, I want to go back just to Capaha.
Right.
What kind of name is that?
Yes.
Capaha Partners.
Yes.
So
there's got to be a story behind that.
There is.
And then we'll spend the remainder of our time talking about all the good money stuff.
Right. So Capaha Partners is actually a park in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. So my wife and I, when we were dating and in Cape Girardeau, we would always go to the park. And then the park, we found out, was really central to their family. All of their family reunions are held there. So it's a real centerpiece to their family. And it has a special place for us and a real centerpiece for us. So we decided Capaha Partners, to name the company.
So is your wife a partner in this company as well?
Not as much, but
okay,
always a partner.
Of course. That's very cool.
That's really sweet.
It is.
I love that.
I love the story. Just like what you said, there's a story behind your business, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So when did you guys form Capaha?
In 2010.
Okay. And this is the business, you're in the capital space?
Yes.
Okay. Talk to us about that.
So Capaha is really almost two entities in itself. We spend most of our time placing debt, working with banks, working with investors, working with other financiers to help small and middle market companies get access to capital.
Now, what does that mean for our listeners here? What does that mean? Can you break that down into its simplest form?
I'm going to try. I warned you, Christy. Sometimes when I start talking about finance, it goes in a completely different direction.
That's okay. We have no problem with tangents.
Yes, we actually love tangents.
So I was thinking about this. The easiest way to explain it is you help a business person understand their balance sheet, understand their debt, understand their cash flow. And then I am able to identify lenders. And when I say lenders, almost generically, there are investors, there are lenders, and structure a deal that works for both sides. So the clients always want money. The investors always really want to lend.
They want a return.
But they also want their return.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And so you work in that space to help identify that medium between both.
Wow.
And I'd like to come back and dive a little bit deeper into what that is.
We just killed 15 minutes.
I know. It's crazy fast.
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
We'll be right back.
BioSTL is a proud founding sponsor of this Entrepreneurially Thinking podcast, and we want you to know all about the great things they are up to. BioSTL Fundamentals is an entrepreneur development program targeted to founders wishing to start a company in the bioscience space, including therapeutic products, diagnostic products, medical devices, animal and crop agriculture products, and research tools. Participants earn resources by achieving specific coaching goals. You can learn more about BioSTL Fundamentals by visiting biostl.org. And for your renewed and continuing support, BioSTL, we say thank you.
Bonnie Barchikowski, Girl Scouts of Eastern Missouri, CEO. Thinking entrepreneurial to me means thinking of a issue that needs to be solved, and I have the opportunity to provide the solution.
So understanding your balance sheet is crucial, and understanding your numbers is usually what freaks most people out. I find in entrepreneurship, they want to talk all day long about the idea, all day long about how wonderful it is, all day long about what they're building and how they're building it. And then the numbers piece, it's like, well, you know, the numbers.
It's really slippery there.
Right? They don't want to spend as much time on the numbers piece. Right? So what else, besides understanding my balance sheet, what other numbers do I have to be really comfortable with? Because I imagine before I can actually tell a story, I have to be able to understand the story myself and then craft it so that the numbers help me
make sense.
Make all the vision stuff more real.
That's right. It's more than projections. It's real cash flow.
There you go.
And a lot of people get, they get a little misguided in that I'm going to make $2 million in revenue and that's my cash flow. But there's a lot of other things you got to pay for before you can really.
Or, December, I'll have $2 million. Oh, yeah. But if in May you have negative whatever.
But it costs me $3 million.
That's called a loss.
That's a loss. Right? People project $2 million. But it's like, no, not quite.
No, it's very important to understand the cash flow, but more so, the name of the game is the margin.
So explain margin, because when I have different classes, whether it's at a university or here at CET, we usually try to make sure people understand the difference between margin and markup, which can sometimes get confusing to people because they're used to markup. Like, it costs me X, I mark it up X number of dollars, and then that's my profit. And we're like, yeah, but what's your margin? And everybody goes, what do you mean, what's my margin? That's the number you need to know.
So you're going to start with your sales. You sold it for X. It costs you Y to buy it. In between, after that is what's your margin, what's left over to pay for everything else.
Right.
That's what you have to understand. So let me give you another insight into that. So you had asked me earlier about getting bit by the bug.
Yeah.
And that actually
the entrepreneurial bug, to be exact.
The entrepreneurial bug, right. So that actually started when I was about 12 years old. And I've told this story countless times. We didn't grow up with a whole lot. And my mother had a routine, back to school time like it is now. She would go out and buy us our clothing. And, as a kid, you want to have the sharpest thing on, and you want to be styling and
fly.
That's right. And we weren't quite fly. But in order to be fly, I knew the stores to go to. And so my mother had bought all this stuff, and I didn't like it. And so my father told me very eloquently, son, if you go out and make your money, you can buy anything you want.
There you go. And
so I asked him that question about 3 times. Because in the back of my mind was, how can I make money in order to buy my own clothing?
It's a great motivator.
It is. It is. So at the age of 12, the only thing you can do is have a paper route back in that day.
Right.
So I decided I was going to get a paper route. The gentleman who was the district manager, John Heinrichs, came in and he sat down, he pulled out a map, and he showed me my territory. It was 33 people. And I looked at the map, and I knew the 2 kids on the other routes, and I said, what if I had that route and that route? He said, well, nobody does that, kid. And I said, well, I might strike a deal with these guys and take out their routes. And he said...
This is before you even delivered a paper.
Before I delivered a paper.
Awesome.
I'm trying to figure this thing out.
You're already doing M&A.
I'm doing M&A work. The big acquisition coming down the pike.
Awesome.
Taking out his competitors.
Exactly.
That's right.
Side deals.
So when I thought about it, as he was explaining it to me, I was thinking, I wanted this really nice pair of corduroys from Mr. Junior's.
Oh man,
it's going to cost me X amount of dollars.
Right.
How do I pay for that?
Right, and it's not going to take me 10 years to earn it.
No.
Right.
He was telling me, you got 33 clients and you're going to make, I forget what it was, but it wasn't much. And he started explaining to me how the business ran. And he said, you buy the newspaper for X, and you sell it until you get to 70 newspapers. And nobody had a route above 70 clients. So you had to pay for every newspaper until you got to 70. I said, well, what happens if you have more than 70? He said, the newspaper's free. So I wrote down, I said 70 free, and I figured out the cost. It was on a declining scale to 70.
Right.
If I got above 70...
That was free money.
That was free money.
Right. All for you.
Right. So imagine, in 4 weeks... You strike a deal with the other 2 kids. You buy them out. You pay them for 4 weeks.
I was going to say,
I paid them for 4 weeks.
They became your employees.
They didn't. I hired 4 more. My brother, my best friend, and 2 other people.
So that was smart. You weren't trying to kill yourself and taking over and doing that yourself. You identified how you were going to actually run this enterprise.
Team and the plan.
There you go.
Team and the plan.
That's right. So I ended up growing the route to 133 clients.
That's a lot of free money.
That's a lot of free money. And imagine, after 70, it was all mine. So the whole point is that I really began to understand what the margin was and what my costs were. And once I nailed it down, I was fine. So I was carrier of the month for 11 months straight.
Of course you were.
Won every contest in between and was carrier of the year. So I was on the new calendar in everybody's home after that.
So wait a minute. Your brother didn't go, hey, how are you getting all the profit and I'm working?
Let's iron that out now. Because he will every year talk about how damaged he is. Because back in those days, you got chased by the big dog when you threw the paper. So he's
got scars.
He's got scars.
He's got wounds. He needs to be compensated.
Exactly.
No, not today.
Okay. I'm just trying to see.
He was compensated fairly.
All right.
I was going to say
I paid my employees fairly.
Family reunion has got to be interesting.
Thanksgiving family reunion conversation.
They're all fine. They all remember it, but they're all fine.
Everybody's got a good story to tell now.
But no, I think this all, you looked at this very creatively.
Exactly.
And I think that most business owners need to take a lesson from that and understand, like you said.
It's not just about the corduroys.
It ain't about, but looking at strategically and creatively, how can I take over more of the market, impact more of the market, and get more of that benefit?
Yeah, how can I scale in a way that creates benefit for me and the other people?
Well, that's part of the story that we keep talking about. So as we've done it in its simplistic form.
Right.
We understand what our revenue is. We understand some of our costs. But where businesses really get in trouble is below that line because there are more costs, there's more taxes, there are more things that you have to pay for. And so you really got to understand pricing, margin increases, those things that affect your margin, and really how to bring that cash to the bottom line.
And the operations, are you being effective in what you're doing from an operational standpoint as well? And are you, one of the biggest things when I took over this division, which was failing, one of our financial indicators was our finance team. We were paying our bills in 30 days, but guess what? Nobody was paying us for 60 to 90 days. Right. That's a problem.
Right.
That's a cash flow problem. So looking, like you said, below the line.
Exactly. And I also work with a lot of clients on the operations. So I put in finance departments, hired CFOs, and really helped them restructure. As you mentioned that, I'm dealing with a situation right now where one of the things that what I told the client was they're not paying you fast enough. And so you have to really step up and ask them to pay you a little quicker.
Or put financial penalties in place. Right.
When you or give discounts. So, we put together a really nice plan where there's some clients we gave discounts to in order to move the cash in a little quicker.
Yeah.
Others we've kind of managed really is payable. So I said, let's manage the payables. Those clients that are really paying, and we look back over the trend, and they're really paying you in 60 days, and that particular supplier can hold out for that period of time. Maybe it's 45 days, and the cash is coming in. It doesn't cost you as much because there's a huge cost of capital.
Carrying costs.
Exactly. When you start putting that money out and you're still waiting for yours.
Tell me about it.
So when you walk into a company or you see an opportunity or a business owner comes to you for that kind of help, how big of the disconnect is there usually between understanding the balance sheet, the cash flow, the margin, the pricing, and getting them ready to go to actually acquire the capital they may need?
It's a real learning experience. Everyone knows a lot, but it's all about really teaching them what I'm looking at. And at that point, I'm really representing the bankers, the investors. And so if I can explain it to them, they can begin to look at it in that manner. Then they can begin to understand for themselves what those different pieces really mean and how it impacts them getting the money that they want.
And what does it mean to tell your story? Because like I said, a lot of entrepreneurs really are, the thing they're most excited about is the idea and the potential. And if they're technical about how it's built and why it's built that way. And then, so how do you take that enthusiasm for that and marry it with the numbers in a way that's compelling to a lender, right? Is it all about what the numbers say, or is there, where does the vision get to fit in all of that?
There's always what I like to call the fight song.
Okay.
So if you're able to sing your song from your balance sheet, strengths, weaknesses, your income statement, strengths and weaknesses, and understand the debt coming in and be able to tell them how they're going to get paid back. Use the cash. How are we going to get paid back? That, in essence, is your story. But there's a lot that goes into getting to that point.
And the vision is how your story plays out in numbers then, right? It's not just this is a really cool thing or it takes care of a very practical need or there's lots of people already buying it already. It's because there's lots of people buying it already and we're able to leverage this capital in this way, that's how you're going to get paid back. Kind of
people who deal with money love a good story. They love a good product. They love a good process, but what they really love is that you can tell the story behind the numbers.
So that's a really important thing. I've been preaching that for a really long time because way back in my nonprofit days to my entrepreneurial days, it's always been, what is the narrative? What's the story? Because otherwise people focus on the wrong thing too. Even the lenders. I mean, smart people, when they've got numbers in front of them and don't have a story, make up stories.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
I mean, it's amazing. Yeah. Really smart people can look at numbers and totally go down the rabbit hole on a number that is not necessarily consequential in the long run, and totally miss the number that they should be totally freaking out about.
I tell the client, just like a good song, if we're singing a song and you're singing the hook, you won't sing your own hook. You'll sing it exactly the way that I've designed it. So for the client, it's all about telling the story first, and then the investors and the lenders and everyone will begin to sing their song.
So what are the challenges when you work with small business owners? What are some of the challenges that you see? How do they reach out to you? Why would they reach out to you? How, what's the issue that they're facing?
A lot of times it's cash flow. It's asking the question when they've run as far as they can in order to say, hey, look, now I need all this money to make this happen. Well, they're telling me the end of the story. They're not telling me how they got to that point, and then understanding how you inject the capital in order to make the story work.
So are they looking to scale up? Is that the reason that they're engaging you to scale their business? Are they looking?
A buyer.
You're right. Are they looking for finding a buyer, M&A? What is it?
It's a lot of all of that. It comes at different times. A lot of companies will come again when we we think we need a lot of cash, and part of the education is to understand where they're at in their cash cycle and really how much cash. Everybody, when they approach, they say, well, I want $1 million. Well, great. Merry Christmas. I want $1 million too. Right. But your business may only need $500,000 and only need that $500,000 infusion in order for you to make back another $500,000 so you have your $1 million.
So are you working with revenue generating companies, or are you working with companies that are just starting out with no revenue?
Mainly revenue generating companies. I've worked with a few that needed, they were in a startup phase. I've worked with some angel investors. Over on the Illinois side, there's a whole angel investment fund, which is great because it provides great tax benefits to the investors. So they're more inclined that when they can find the tax benefit as wealthy individuals to invest in that. So they're not as concerned about the return. So you are not a fund. You are putting together investors, people who are banks or lending institutions with businesses, correct? That's correct.
Okay, cool. Very cool.
Yeah, he does some really interesting work.
I am loving this.
It's never a dull project.
Oh my gosh. Can you talk about any of your projects that you're working on right now, especially in the African American community? Are you working with a lot of people of color with their businesses?
It's been a good mix here over the last few years. This year, give you an example, we're working on an acquisition of a construction company. Okay. So that takes on its own issues. Yeah. And that's an African American gentleman who wanted to buy the company, approached us on the M&A side. We've already lined up the financing for it, and right now we're in about the last 30 days of due diligence. And this is one of the things that we've talked about. Sometimes you might not, because sometimes building the business is not what your interest is. So we always tell people, if you're interested in entrepreneurship, you can always buy an existing company. I think that's a huge opportunity for many folks. If you've got the skills and know-how and interest in taking an existing business and growing it further, that's a really great opportunity. And from my understanding, there are a lot of businesses in our corridor that lack succession planning, where there might not be family interest to pursue running that company even further. Is that some of the things you're right? There's a lot of that happening right now. There used to be the whole discussion about the transition of business. Well, it's here now. There are a lot of companies that are actually out there looking for someone to basically buy them, to invest in them heavily. So you don't have to necessarily start the business from scratch. Yes. Just kind of look within the industry and purchase. So the client we're working with right now decided that he wanted to buy this company versus trying to start something up. buying it is huge leverage for him in the marketplace. It's actually going to double sales in the first year.
Wow. So folks, listen to that. Listen to this. This is another great opportunity. You don't have to build it.
No, you don't.
No, not today.
You can
don't
buy
have to
it.
necessarily build it. And I've seen both sides. I built one and then I bought another one, and there's advantages, disadvantages to all of them. But right now, the timing in buying a company is actually very good.
So if I'm a company that wants to grow, is looking for a buyer, or if I'm somebody who wants to buy, how do I find you or someone like you? Because I also know folks are like, will talk a good game, but then when it actually comes down to paying for the expertise that you bring to the table, because you bring that expertise long before the dollars come.
Oh, yes.
Right? So if they're kind of dabbling in that and they're thinking this might be the space they want to get into, I would assume first thing, you got to be serious.
You have to be serious, and you have to have identified something that's pretty serious.
Okay.
And you have to have some revenue.
You have to have some revenue. And you have to be willing to make the sacrifice yourself. Everyone talks about skin in the game.
Right.
So your skin in the game is actually building up to the financing that gets it done. So you have to be willing to do that. And you're right. A lot of people aren't necessarily willing. They want to kind of dabble about and see if it's going to work and kind of make the promise, well, if it works, then we can make this work. And that's really not how it works, especially with some of the people that I deal with that are on the higher end. We tend to be more the low-cost advantage, and really it's because I really want to help individuals. I'm not really trying to take anything from anyone.
So when a deal falls apart, what would you attribute that to?
That's a good question, and I've got an almost ready answer for that one because I'm dealing with it right now.
Nothing like the present, right?
Yeah, so the deal fell apart not by the metrics of the deal, but by the individual that was involved. It's understanding what they're really involved in, and it's sometimes when you're doing a deal, other deals will surface, and so you lose your concentration because now you may think this is a better deal, and if I do it this way with this guy, this is a better deal. So this particular deal is falling apart because there are so many other sexy things around that they're not focused on it.
Okay.
So it sounds like we've got to be serious. We got to be able to, I'm willing to put the time in, put the skin in the game, focus. And then if you're willing to make those types of investments, then someone like Raullo is willing to help you put together the deal.
Helping to do it.
Awesome.
Happy to do it.
That is very cool.
Well, we have come to the end of our time together. I know.
We got to bring you back because I can think of more things.
I'm just thinking when you're up in Chicago and we got to go eat somewhere, and I need to come visit you in Chicago when you're up there.
I was just there this past weekend.
That's something I got to make happen because you're eating lots of things without me and spending time with good people. But nonetheless, I think there's lots of occasions for us to continue this conversation. Absolutely. But thank you so much for spending time with us and our listeners.
You're welcome.
Thank you. This is great.
Changing the way you view new ventures, igniting your thinking about entrepreneurship. It's Entrepreneurially Thinking. Get connected and discover more. Visit our website for show notes, resources, information about our guests, upcoming events, and of course, all your favorite episodes. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them for us in the comment sections, and be sure to leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes. The best way to show love is to share. Let everybody know that you're thinking entrepreneurially. So visit our website, entrepreneurially-thinking.com. #ETHINKSTL. Entrepreneurially Thinking is another positive production of Rare Gem Productions. Thanks for listening.